pre-show that I tell everybody. This is a pre-show. We're just getting on a couple minutes before to give everybody a chance to get on, and of course to go through the little technical difficulties that we seem to always have sometimes. So I do apologize, Esther.
Yeah.
And I apologize to our viewers. Everybody who's watching, me and Esther are going to be talking about self-care. So I think what Esther and I would really like to know is comment below, what do you do for self-care? I know that for me, I like to read. I did a little, I don't know, Esther, did you I think you did see my little stream that I did last night, and my little thing, my obsession with Outlander TV show series right now. And those are, I try to watch that, and I try to do some reading. I also, my husband and I are beer connoisseurs, so we do like to go out and travel and try to try new beers. So what do you do, Esther?
I mean, I'm with you with the travel. Travel for me, especially a longer trip, can be something that really helps me get grounded again and get back in touch with myself in a way that a quick little trip, while it works, a longer trip can really recharge me. But just if an everyday type of thing, I like to meditate. I actually meditate on the way into work, on the subway. Believe it or not, it really kind of gets me in a good. I know, but for some reason, I kind of get in that zone, and it helps me prepare for the day.
Wow.
In a way that, because I like to arrive to work sort of ready and not frazzled. I used to arrive to work frazzled, hungry, needing caffeine, and that can be difficult to then get in the groove and be there for other people.
No, that's
so. Yeah.
I like to hear a little bit more about how you meditate. I used to live in New York City, so I know what it's like to be on the train. Yeah. That is very interesting that you're able to do that. You're able to do that. All right, so we got, let's see, Maciel has joined, I've got a cousin Michelle, Dave, there's a whole bunch of people joining on. Nice. Welcome everybody. As I always tell everybody, comment below, say hello, tell us where you're, where are you from? Also, what do you do for self-care? If you definitely want to let us know about that. But we love, Esther, I love it when people comment and let me know that they're here and let me know what's going on. And of course, if you have any questions throughout the whole show, please do not hesitate to give questions to either Esther or I. I do request that you write the word question before it, because that way the kind of comment kind of pops out for me. So I will definitely make sure that I get to that. So definitely make sure that you do that. And even if you're watching the show afterwards, if you write a comment, if you write a question, we'll still get the question. So, please still do that so that we can get back to you with your questions. And I always ask everybody to share the video, because what I do here, I come on here every week and it's all about sharing information. These shows are not for me and they're not for Esther. They're for you guys to get the information out there, to educate as many people. I mean, yes, I have a passion for women's health, but even guys, this is something that's for everybody. This is not just for the girls out there. I mean, this is for everyone. So definitely, make sure that you share the love. Share. All right. So I also see Nicole's on, Nancy's on. There's a whole bunch of people that are on. So it is 8:01 actually. So we're going to get started. So I'm going to start the show off. I'm not going to get rid of Esther though, because I think I may lose my sound. So we're just going to get started. We can't live without Esther tonight. So hello everyone, welcome to our show, Lori from Women's Health on the Go. And as you can see, I've got a guest with us, Esther Blanchard, and we're going to be talking about something that is so important for everyone. Whatever gender you are, this is really important for. And this comes, I think, before all these talks that I do every week. This is going to kind of come before all of that. This stuff is really important. We're going to be talking about self-care. As you know, my name is Lori Faulkner. I'm a part of Women's Health on the Go, and I provide video consultations for women, and we talk about conventional, natural, and holistic ways how to take care of our bodies. And now I'm going to introduce, and we've got next to me, Esther.
Hey everybody.
Welcome, Esther. I'm really, really happy to have you. Some of you that are on, that are from our job, at least my old job, know that me and Esther are colleagues. We're also good friends. Esther and I used to go to lunch and have a lot of wonderful conversations about self-care, ourself, our bodies, so many things. And she is definitely been an inspiration to me, and she's writes a blog, and she talks about self care. And I thought it would be great to have her on the show to make sure that everybody gets this information out there. So, Esther, welcome. As I always do with all of my guests, I say introduce yourself to everybody out there. We've got a lot of people out there. Introduce yourself. Tell us, how did you also then get into this self-care blogging?
Yeah. So, so happy to be here, Lori. Thanks for having me on. So excited. So one of the reasons I got into self-care, especially the blog, is that I am horrible at self-care. So I'm not coming at you with all this wisdom because it just came natural to me. Actually did not come natural to me at all. And prior to being a nurse, I worked in human services. And this was actually, I think, all the way back in 2001 is when I first started. And I quickly saw that self-care was not a priority wherever I worked, regardless of the type of work. I worked in a homeless shelter. I worked at a day center for adults with special needs. I worked at a halfway house. It did not matter where I worked. Self-care was at the bottom of the pile of lists of things we needed to do to take care of ourselves. And in fact, at one point when I was early on in my career, I asked somebody who was meant to be a mentor to me, and I said, how can I feel like the burnout is super high. How can I take care of myself? Like, what are some tricks or tips or whatever? And she went, I mean, like maniacal laugh for a solid 30 seconds. And I realized, okay, so this is not a thing that people are doing. And so it kind of became my goal as time went on. I realized I don't want to end up like that lady. So ever since, it's sort of been my goal to get better so that I can continue to do the work I love, but not coming from a place of burnout or a place of, the nurse ratchet. We've all heard about the nurses that are not caring and don't care.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that was my goal, has always been to avoid being that person. And so I found that one of the ways it really helped me to keep on track was two things. First, I started off and did a gratitude blog. That was the first year I moved to New York, working at the same job we had. And every day I would write something that I was grateful for. And some days it was tricky. Some days it was literally like, I have food, it was a struggle. And other days I could, pontificate about my life and what was perfect and et cetera. But I made the decision to focus on gratitude. And that kind of got me in the space to start then thinking about self-care in a different way. And then shortly after that, I started the self-care blog. And so from there, it's kind of the thing that keeps me on track and keeps me focused on my own personal self-care while hopefully helping others for whoever listens or reads.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you having fun doing it?
I love it. It's become part of my Monday. I have Mondays off, and it's become part of my Monday routine to just really get that in that space. And it also sets my week up nice because it forces me to start the week off from a place of health instead of a place of burnout. Because I think one of the problems is a lot of us are, as caregivers, we tend to take care of everybody else. And then the little scraps that we have left, we then give to ourselves. And that's not enough. Serving others from a place of emptiness and burnout really serves no one.
Yeah, no.
It certainly doesn't serve us.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And I think that, I know that as caregivers, because I mean, we both work in healthcare, but I also think that on some level, when it comes, just because I'm dealing with women's health, I think women, because, they tend to be the mothers, they tend to have to do their kids and do the family and do the whole thing. And we always forget about ourselves, and I think it's very, very important that we start remembering ourselves. Absolutely.
And I think it's tricky to deprogram that. I think for a lot of us, we were told to give until you have nothing left. If you ever read obituaries, it can be, it's staggering. It'll say this person never took anything for themselves, only gave.
Yeah.
And then, dead at 56. It's like, come on here. What's going on here? What's the common theme?
Yeah.
And the common theme is that we don't know how to, we have to give ourselves permission in a world that for a long time did not give us permission to take care of ourselves first. And it feels initially almost selfish. But the reality is in order to serve others, we have to take care of ourselves. It's actually imperative.
And that's why I think that, like in the beginning of the show, I actually said, like, take care of ourselves and even the basic kind of things that we need to do. And I actually think that this is something that we need to do before all of that.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do that, then I don't know if the other, like, what is the other stuff really going to end up doing for us?
Yeah.
Because our bodies we're still not going to be doing that. Just taking care of ourselves for that. Just even if it's, to me, sometimes it's just me taking like an hour, just to sit there and do like nothing and just try to relax and just go, all right, I'm not going to think about anything. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm going to watch a show that puts me in a different world right now, just so that I can recharge my own self.
I think, you had posed the question at the beginning of the show, what are ways that you practice self-care? And I find when I ask people that, they tend to kind of give me this blank stare because it feels like this daunting, like they should have a really good answer. And you don't have to have a really good answer. It can be whatever works for you. Yesterday, you talked about Outlander being a show, and I thought that was great because you know what? It doesn't have to be that you take a bubble bath with the suds and the rose and the wine. I mean, that would be lovely. I live in New York City with a disgusting bathtub. That is not my reality. So you have to figure out what for you is the thing that works. And so sometimes another question can be, how do you decompress? Because that can be a way that makes you feel like, okay, this doesn't have to be as, lofty of an answer. It can just be a little, like sometimes I just like to read, or I have my shows I like, or, I think it's important to figure out and start to focus on what are the things you like and not judge what your self-care activity is. Another thing I think that's tricky is we, especially as caregivers, and I use caregivers as a very broad term, I think a lot of us, regardless of your field, if you're not a caregiver at work, you may be a caregiver at home.
Yep.
I think a lot of times, totally lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
Gone.
That's quite a.
Come back.
That's. You know what? If it's important, it'll come back. That's what it's all about that. So we got a couple of comments here. Michelle, she's from Pittsburgh. She says, hello, Esther. She's like, I look at my exercise as self-care. She's like, my Zumba class gives me endorphins high. That's hard to even explain. So I think that even just points out whatever it is to you is exactly what it is. It's whatever is self-care for you.
And can I just say what I love about that, Michelle, is also to have, when you make exercise can be your time. It's when you can I know what I was going to say. It's carving out time for yourself in your calendar. Most of us are so good at keeping our promises to other people. Yes, I'll have coffee with you. Yes, I'll help with your kids, or I'll whatever. But when it comes to making our own self a priority, we're the first to bail on ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I love exercise for that, because it can be a real, when you say, no, this is my time to exercise, people being your community, your family, can be a little more on board with that, because it's your time.
Yes.
And so exercise is a great way to practice self-care, because it really is a personal thing. Whether you do it with friends or by yourself, it's so important to not cancel on yourself. right?
Yep, absolutely. That is so true.
Yeah.
You're gonna definitely, no matter what you do, you'll be like, I told her I was gonna go meet her for coffee. I gotta be there. I gotta be there. And you'll make sure that you get there for your friend for that cup of coffee. You need to almost be like, I can't be late because it's my exercise class. I gotta get there. This is for me.
I promised myself that I was going to do this for myself. But we are so quick to bail on ourselves because, it's us. But you have to treat yourself like you would a dear, dear friend. You would never bail on a dear, dear friend.
No.
You would never say certain things to a dear, dear friend that we say to ourselves. That's also an act of self-care.
Yes.
Some of the things I say to myself, I would never say that to you, Lori.
Yes.
Never. Yeah. But I have no problem having this tape in my head saying some pretty awful stuff. So a lot of it is also awareness of what we're saying to ourselves, noticing, this is the second time this week that I bailed on myself. Starting to pay attention to what you do focus your energy on and what you don't.
That's very, very true. All right. Dave says Beatle music. So I guess, and I was actually thinking about that, to me, sometimes, I still work in a clinic and on the way home, to me, it's Madonna.
Yes.
I break out, in the car, just, hey, let's just keep listening to that,
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
And Nicole says that's a great motto. I don't cancel on yourself. That's a good one. All right. So, what kind of advice do you, for people out there who are like, where do I begin? What do I do here? I got to start doing some self-care. Like, do you have some tips for them? Or?
Sure. So a lot of these tips stem from my own poor decisions. So I'll give you a great example. So I think it was a year or so ago, I had some friends visiting from out of the country. And suddenly I found that I was buying them brand new, like the sheets that I wish I had always had. I bought them. I went to, Marshall's. I wasn't going crazy, but I got the more expensive sheets. I got the very nice cheeses. I got the good bread, not the packaged bread. I just really went to town for them so that they would feel comfortable in my home and et cetera. And all of a sudden I'm looking around and I'm going, why don't I do this for me?
Yeah.
It was so easy for me to make her feel at home by providing all these things. But when it came to myself, just simple little things, my go-to food was like Papa John's pizza or, like when I'm in a bad place, I'm like eating ring dings or ho-hos. I'm not thinking like, wait a minute, is this how I would treat somebody that I care about if they're going through a hard time? And so I think sometimes it's just reframing how you think and doing little tiny things. When your go-to is to eat horribly or your go-to is to not treat yourself in a way that is honoring yourself, that can be little things you can change. So sometimes when I'm trying to think of what should I do for myself, I try to think what I would do for a dear friend, and then I practice that on myself. Okay. So that's one tip. Another thing is just starting to pay attention to yourself and what makes you feel alive. I think, the main thing for me, I think I've noticed in caregivers, myself included, is we're not great at asking for what we need. So that's probably one of the biggest things for caregivers. We are so good at anticipating the needs of others. I mean, if you're a caregiver, that's pretty much your job. You are paying attention to the nuances. Somebody just looks a little off today. Something is wrong, and it's our job to figure out what's wrong with them. But then when it comes time for us and for us to take care of ourselves, that's where we're not so great at asking for help. And it can just be something simple like, I just need somebody to do the dishes today, or I just need would somebody be able to help me with this? But you have to ask. We think that that everyone should anticipate the needs the way that we do, and that's just not the reality. If your partner is not in the caregiving field, if your family is not in that field, they are not going to use that muscle like you use it.
Yeah, no,
they just don't.
It's so interesting that you say that because, there was a time when I was, I'm still working a clinic. I'm doing this, doing the whole women's health on the go. And I just felt like I had to do everything else in the house. I had to do the laundry. I had to do the dishes. I had to do the cleaning. I felt like I had to do anything. And it wasn't that my husband wasn't willing to help. It was just like, I was like, no, I'll do it. I'll do the laundry. Like, it was almost like, maybe it was a little bit of control issue, on some level, but it was just like, I also just felt like I have to constantly be doing everything. And it was finally a moment where I was just like, I can't do everything. I have to, he's not going to know that I need help. Yes. Like at one moment I was like, why isn't he helping me? But on the same level, it was because I was doing it. And when he would try to help, I'd be like, no, I've got to do it. But it was like that realization, like, you know what? I have to just ask him. And you know what? By simply asking, now it's like the whole, now we have a little bit more, it's given me time to be like, I can focus a little bit more on women's health on the go. I don't have to worry about these certain things. And it was just a matter of asking.
And one of the beautiful things that happens when we ask somebody to help us is oftentimes that person is happy to help.
Yes.
For so long they see you struggling, you don't ask for help, or every time they ask if they can help you, say no. So to actually be able to give that person the opportunity to be able to help you feels pretty great. And so I think a big one, and I see it, I see the difference in people when all of a sudden they just ask for that little thing. It opens up their life in a way to realize, like, oh, not only does it feel good to have somebody help me, it feels good for that person.
Yes.
To be useful. They see you. I mean, they're living with us.
Yeah.
They're seeing how exhausted we look.
Need them.
We need them. We need our community. We need our friends. If people are saying, let me help you, let them help you. That doesn't make you any less of a person. It actually makes you somebody who can empathize in a way to other people, because you don't have to have it perfect all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think another issue is perfection and being in control all the time. I think sometimes we have this idea, like, I can't relax until my house is clean, until this is this and this and this. And then you have this much time left for your self-care. Now, some people will say to me, well, I relax by cleaning. And if that's the case, God bless you, that's not me.
I'll give you my address.
Come on over. But I think it's important to sometimes just let it go and be like, you know what? The laundry's not getting done today, but what does need to get done is a little time for myself. That's my priority, and not obsessing over the fact as you're reading your book, oh my gosh, my laundry. No, let it go. Give yourself that time. I
think you're hitting everything right on. That's very, very true. Absolutely. Because, there was times when a long time ago, I realized, I'm like, I've got a problem because I can't go to bed unless the dishes are done in the sink, and this was years ago. And I actually was talking to someone, and she's like, leave the damn dishes in the sink. Yeah. They're not going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing bad's going to happen if you leave them till the morning, and I'm like, okay, let me see if I could do this, and it was just instead taking that moment for myself instead of like, doing the dishes. So I totally, it's spot on. Absolutely.
And I think another thing, like we were saying before, it's kind of important to really get to know yourself. And I think we spend so much time getting, like I said, anticipating the needs of others, that a lot of time has been spent to not know who we are. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I read about in this really good book, by the way, for anyone who is interested, it's called the Compassion Fatigue Workbook. They talk about zones. So there's a green zone, a yellow zone, and a red zone. The green zone is when they say, like, your well is full, right? So let's say, usually you're in the green zone when you just came back from vacation. Mm-hmm. You're rested. You had a little time after vacation, even before you went back to work. And so, for instance, in the clinic that I work, if somebody was like, hey, Esther, can you put this patient in for me? I'm like, I can put in everybody's patient. I'm just like, I'm just a happy joy. Yes. That's not the zone we usually live in, but it's a nice place to be when you're there. Yep. Yellow zone is pretty much where we stay. That's where, you're going to fluctuate between being energized and tired. Not burned out, but tired. Usually the weekend can re-energize us and we're back on track. But where we need to be careful is when we get into the red zone. And the red zone is a scary place. And that's where everything feels like a chore. For me, sometimes something as simple as somebody writes me a text message and I'm like, ah, like it just feels like exhaustion. Like I've got to write that back. Like it's too much. Even a text message feels too much, you know?
Yep.
That's also when you're prone to overreactions. Somebody asks you to do something that normally shouldn't be no big deal, but your reaction is over the top. And that's a clue to yourself of maybe when you're not in the best place. I actually had a colleague call me out on it a couple of years ago because basically I was in the red zone. I absolutely needed a vacation, and my reactions did not match what they should. You know, it was a simple request, and I totally flew off the handle. And it was a wake-up call for me, and pretty humbling to have somebody call me out on it. But it was also, I know what it feels like to be in that place, and so I'm very conscious about not going to that place. So red zone's going to differ for everyone. I think a couple clues are when somebody's telling you about something that's happening to them. Maybe they're going on vacation, and your inner thoughts are, like, must be nice to be able to do that, instead of being genuinely like excited for them.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, we may not be able to go to that tropical island that somebody wants to go to, but most of us have vacation time. So you can still take that time.
Yep.
And that's just something to remember. So the zones for me are a nice indicator for myself. I kind of keep on track. I actually gave a talk to a bunch of people at work about the zones. And occasionally people will come up to me and they'll be like, Esther, I'm in the red zone. I'm like, okay. Or whatever. Time for vacation, time to reevaluate. Red zone can also be a time to reevaluate what's going on for you.
Could red zone be a time for, I need a mental health day tomorrow?
Absolutely. Yeah. To kind of reevaluate what's going on. And you may find that one mental health day is not enough, and it may be time to take a vacation, even though maybe you don't have the means to go where you would like, but you need that break. A real break.
Yeah. And I think even, you know, as much as staycations might not be the most, you know, ideal thing that someone wants to do, but sometimes just to get away from the job, you know, and just do whatever. And even if it's laying on the couch, you know, Outlander binging or something.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
No, totally.
You know, I think that is, it's something that we totally have to do. You know, we have to take those vacation days. We have to take those times. And, you know, and sometimes to me, sometimes you're not really quote unquote physically sick, but you need to take a mental health day and just step away
and I
from
think
it.
it's important to check in with the people that are around you, your family and friends, and really let them have the frank conversation with you. Surround yourself with people who love you and know you, who can say, yeah, you have seen, like you're not seeming like you're doing too well. I think it's important for us to remain open and vulnerable so that we can stay healthy. Because, again, when I was called out on the fact that I was in the red zone, it was very humbling. And initially, I think I was probably a bit reactive. Yeah. But afterwards, it was like, I respect that person for calling me out, you know, for getting me to a place of health.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that most people would react like, well, what are you talking about? I'm fine. You know, I mean, I know that I'd probably be like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
But I think taking that in and just actually going, okay, you know, let me actually think about what's going on in my life right now and how am I reacting to this situation? You know, this is, you know, whatever the situation may be, but it's not good.
Sure. No.
So any other kind of advice that you've got, like to?
Let me see.
Because we're almost coming to the end, so I don't know if you got any last little bits. But I think that this is awesome, and I think this is, I mean, I've got, you know, lots of, you know, great content, you know, lots of, you know, I've got the comment of dishes in the sink we can go to, you know. But we've got lots of little hearts and, you know, all this kind of stuff, and everyone's comment really good, because I think this is I think really important information, everyone. I think this is where we really need to start before, because if you get in that, you also have to think about what happens in our bodies when we get into that red zone, where, I talk about various things about stress and how stress can influence what's going on in our body physically. Then there's, and if you're constantly like this, your body's then it's going to get inflamed. We talk about, I talk about lots of every almost medical thing that I talk about. Either there's inflammation, stress, like there's all these things that are going on in our body. And if we don't do self-care and we end up getting in that red zone, then there's that potential that it's going to go to the next level of actually creating a physical illness, and that's totally, and that's why I really think that talking about this self-care is something that we've got to do way before all that other stuff that I'm, anti-inflammatory diet and all that, that stuff is, it's important, but I think this is kind of goes before it, because if you don't do self-care, you're going to end up having to, have those inflammation in the body, stress in the body.
Totally.
It's going to cause illness. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I have to say, part of it is also changing the culture of the jobs that we work, especially if you're in a culture where the idea is that the more overtime you work, the better. My first nursing job was basically a place where the nurses relied on their overtime so much that they lived within their means of only working overtime. So instead of looking at their paycheck as just a regular paycheck, they lived based on working 20 hours a week overtime or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, that was such a horrible culture for me to start out with as a nurse, because I basically was working with burned out, angry humans all the time. Yeah. Because when you think that, or it wouldn't take would pride themselves on not taking sick days. Oh, I haven't taken a sick day in 5 years. That's ridiculous.
It is.
That's ridiculous. Creating a culture where that's okay, I refuse to be a part of that, because I think it is just perpetuating this martyrdom of this martyr of, it's almost like it's a badge of honor to not take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Can't think of the last time they forced me to go on vacation. When I hear people say that they've been forced to go on vacation by their administration, red flag.
Yeah. They're in the red zone.
Yes, absolutely. They're in the red zone. And that's not somebody that I want to be training me or to be bragging about it to new nurses. That's not the culture we want to create. So that's just another thing I just wanted to say is beware of those that you surround yourself with at work. If that is how they're talking, or that's how the company rolls, think about if that's where you want to be. I know sometimes we're stuck where we are, but just to think about if they are rewarding you for being a martyr, I'm not into it personally.
No.
Because they're setting you up to fail and they're setting you up for burnout. Yeah. And you do no one any favors by being somebody who's a burned out caregiver.
No, I agree with that so much. Because I think that, and unfortunately, in America, it is about working. It's not about, a lot of people only get 2 weeks vacation, 5 days, 10 days, and that's all they get. And I think that to me, I think everyone should get a week off each season. We should be able to each season, we got to recharge ourselves. And to me, that makes us more productive. It makes us healthier.
Absolutely.
There's so many more benefits to that. And I totally agree with you. I mean, there's some places that they just, they don't take vacation. If you ask for vacation, they're like, oh God, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. We've got a big project, and it's almost like, well, try to deal with it without me, what am I supposed to do? So I totally get that. I think this has been awesome, amazing information, Esther. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope everyone has enjoyed this. Let's see, Nicole says job culture in the U.S. sadly doesn't naturally support self-care. And I agree. That's the sad part. It is heartbreaking. Yeah. It is heartbreaking. I actually lived in the UK for a couple years. And I remember when, because I was had my work experience in the US. And when I got there and they're like, on the first day, they're like, okay, you get 6 weeks vacation. I'm like, I get what? Can you rewind and play that again? And that didn't even include my sick time. And over in the UK, if you're sick, you're sick. you have to get a doctor's note. I totally understand the process, but they're like, if you're sick, you're sick. How is that going? Why should we, penalize you from your vacation time because you got sick? But most people weren't sick because you have 6 weeks vacation.
Right.
I mean,
you're actually recharged and ready to work.
You're ready to go,
Yeah. I have friends that live in Sweden. I think she gets like 6 or 8 weeks, and she gets an insane amount of time as well. And by the end of that, she's ready to go back. She's looking forward to go back. I never hear people say when they come back from vacation it rarely do I hear them say they were ready to come back. But when you have a really solid break, you're ready, you're re-energized.
No, absolutely. Yeah, most people say, all right, well, now I need a vacation from my vacation or something.
Yeah, I know.
A typical response that people say. Yeah. Okay. Oh, Nicole says, what's the name of that book again?
Sure. So it's called the Compassion Fatigue Workbook.
Okay. I will do is
wonderful.
I'll put a link of that book up at the top.
Sure.
I'll make sure with Esther that I got the right one. But I will put a link to that book at the top. I'm also going to put a link to Esther's blog, which I really like it. I like it. I've been reading it, and it's got a lot of good. It just it just stimulates your mind to go, okay, yeah, like I need to think about this, or I like it a lot. I personally like it a lot. And
it's usually stuff. It's probably usually stuff we already know, but it's little reminders to just keep taking care of yourself. Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we all really need to do. Like, there's lots of things that I'll be like, okay, I remember to do this, I remember to do this, I remember to do this, but sometimes there's so much stuff that you forget the little simple things. Like, I used to do a gratitude journal, and you know what? And when you said that, I'm like, I haven't done that in a while. Like, I need to go back and start doing that, because we do forget. There's just so much information out there. So, so thank you for reminding me, because I'm going to definitely start doing that every morning, because I journal every morning, but I'm always journaling lots of things, but I forgot to do that one little thing. Like, what am I grateful for today? What am I?
It can really shape your day.
It can. I always say that when I wake up in the morning, today is going to be an amazing day, because I believe that you're putting that energy out to the universe, and whatever you wake up and you say in the morning is going to come back to you. So if, for the most part, I'd say, some days, of course, we all have like, little crappy days. But for the most part, I'm always like, what, even when it's crappy, I'm like, it was a great day. Like, I have lots of things that are, going on that are great. So, I see Rebecca has joined. You remember Rebecca?
Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca. All right, everybody. So I hope that you enjoyed the show tonight. I know that I completely enjoyed the show. Hester, I hope you enjoyed being on our show as well.
Loved it.
We may have you come back, because you know what? We're going to probably have to be reminded of this stuff, just like we're just talking about, down the road. So we would love to have you back. Again, everyone. Yeah. All right. So everybody, if you want to get show reminders, just make sure you click reminder down below, and we'll get you hooked up into that. I'm going to post up above Esther's blog post, the link to that book that she discussed, and I will see you next week. I know what the subject is next week. I can't think of it right now, but we'll definitely, as you know, we're going to be here at 8 o'clock every Monday night to bring you lots of information. And if you have a show topic, put a comment down below. If you have a question for either I or Esther, I always just say, put that big little question word before your question, and we'll both be able to answer that question for you. That's okay, right, Esther?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Esther.
Thanks for having me.
Yay. And we will see you next week, everybody. And that's it for this evening. Take care, everybody. Say goodbye, Esther.
Bye.
Bye.